So I ran into that problem a while back, and I was getting to that point where it was like, okay, well, like you said, like I have to practice what I preach. Like I'm building all these brands for other people. I have the receipts, but it's like again, my page is not looking like they should. So what I did was I just started bulking content like a mug, bro. Like I at the time I had a lot of time and space on my calendar, so I just looked at my calendar. I picked out days and probably made literally 20 pieces of content from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep. 20 pieces of content, just put it in the vault. So like even as we speak, bro, I probably have like 400 pieces of content, whether that's pictures, graphics, or videos that I have not even put out yet. But it got to that point only because I checked the analytics. And
back to the Mastermind Thinks podcast. Super excited to be back with you guys. It's a new year, and I'm just ready to jump into the dope content. So I ain't gonna waste your time with all the intro stuff. But what I want to do is introduce you guys to my man Steeze. I met him on the internet, on the interwebs. I'm pretty sure I think Clubhouse was the first place, and then
yeah,
through Instagram, through all the spaces. And so I'm just super excited for the people to get to learn a little more about you and what you do, man. First, how you doing today, man?
pretty good, man. Pretty good. Hey, clarity. That's just been life in 2023, to be honest.
Hey, bro, I love that. Well, let's start off here. Let's tell the people a little bit about who you are, what you got going on now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So my name is Darrlyn Johnson. People call me Steeze, and I'm the owner of Steeze Marketing. We focus on creative marketing, unique branding, and middle of last year, we kind of got into Web3 as well, Web3 solutions, right? So when it comes down to us, our whole goal is to help brands get clarity, right? Tell that brand story. We did start off doing marketing, just straight marketing content, logos, whatever you could think of under the marketing spectrum. We did everything, and we still do, but we have kind of integrated into that branding space because we understand that we want to help people tell that story of their brand.
Yeah, that's super dope. And so I'm gonna start here because part of this is I know this is what you do, and so I feel like people will get so much value out of this kind of question. How how do you help brands get that clarity?
Yeah, man. So for us, we have our four clarity questions, and you've been in Coach Glenn's room. So the dopest part about these are actually I credit him every time because I base these off of how he makes people introduce themselves, right? And so our four clarity questions are kind of we tweak them a little bit, but it's who are you, what do you do, how do you do it, and who do you do it for, right? And whether it's a personal brand, whether it's a corporate brand, if you break down those four questions, it's very easy to get clarity on what you need to do to move forward. And for us, it's huge on creating content. A lot of people will just go to a company, be like, "Yo, what do you need us to make?" And I'm not out here saying that people are making terrible content because there's some amazing stuff out here. But what I am saying is when you're able to work off those questions, it's much easier to make the content, like make content for months and months at a time in bulk, if that makes sense, right? When you do that as well, when you get those when we go through those four clarity questions, after we figure those out in detail, we'll move on to the unique value proposition. And what the unique value proposition is, it takes your strengths and why you stand out in the industry, and you put those together, and then boom, that's your unique value proposition, right? So that's how we kind of help brands get clarity. It's one of those things where if it isn't broke, don't fix it, right? And it's been working very well. It's just active improvement. What can we add on, and what else works good with this formula? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's so dope because I feel like, in the past when I worked with companies, that was always the question, right? No matter who you're working with, they don't even know what they're doing. They're just doing stuff because somebody, hey, go make content. They're like, all right, cool. And then you get in there, you're like, but it doesn't make sense.
But it
Who
doesn't
are
make
you even
sense.
talking to? how,
This is
how do you,
beautiful. This is
yeah,
amazing, but this doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? It's like a Super Bowl commercial. Like, what does this have to do with the product?
no,
Sometimes.
exactly. And so let me ask you this on how do you from which angle do you approach it once you get in there and you get them the clarity, right? You're saying, hey, now we know who you are, who you're trying to chase. Do you come at it from more of an analytical side or more of a creative side, or like what's your mix in that piece when you're helping people?
It used to be straight from a creative side, but it's hard now for me. It's hard for me to even get to the creative side without going on the analytical side, right? Like for instance, like creating ads for companies. It's like, yeah, I want to create all these specific ads and I have all these ideas after the company's talking to me. But until I see like where your target market is, who your target market is, etc., I can't even make the content, or I can't even tell you what type of content I want to make. You know what I'm saying? So just to answer your question, I have to almost dang near come from the analytical side to even get to the creative side, the way my brain is moving these days.
Yeah, that's so good to think about. And so, and what I heard you saying there was part of that. Did you have to adjust to that because before you were like creative, like I got all these great ideas, and then you had to change to analytical, or
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because I start seeing like, okay, I can have all these great ideas. You know, my content can look amazing, but what am I building? You know what I'm saying? Like, I can get all these views, I can get a million followers, but what am I building on the back end? And it's like, even on the ad running side of things, like people think you run ads for brand awareness and all that, but you really run it for stats. You really run it to understand who your target market is. And then on top of that, if you're a marketer, you run it to understand, okay, this is how I need to market towards this specific crowd. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, for sure. And so, look, I got to ask this question. This is a selfish question that I want to ask because so for a little bit, I did some marketing for other people, and then what I started to realize one of the problems that I would run into, right, is I'm teaching it and telling other people to do it, but I was having a hard time managing my own social to look the way that I was telling people to. How did you and your team handle that? Are you guys heavy on your content side, so you kind of like, for lack of better terms, practicing what you preach and you're showing by example, or do you kind of run into that problem too?
So I ran into that problem a while back, and I was getting to that point where it was like, okay, well, like you said, like I have to practice what I preach. Like I'm building all these brands for other people. I have the receipts, but it's like, again, my page is not looking like they should. So what I did was I just started bulking content like a mug, bro. Like I at the time I had a lot of time and space on my calendar, so I just looked at my calendar. I picked out days and probably made literally 20 pieces of content from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep. 20 pieces of content, just put it in the vault. So like even as we speak, bro, I probably have like 400 pieces of content, whether that's pictures, graphics, or videos that I have not even put out yet. But it got to that point only because I checked the analytics. And just going back to checking the analytics, bro, I understood like, yeah, I want Instagram to be, I'm not even old head. I'm 29. I don't want Facebook to be my, I don't want Facebook to be my biggest platform. But when we check the analytics, that's what I'm growing the most on. That's what our pages are growing the most on because of this is the type of content apparently that works with the algorithm or what people want to see on there. You know what I'm saying? So it just had to get to a point of me understanding that people are not, I have to practice what I preach regardless of anything. And I have to get my pages to a point that people understand that everything I'm telling them to do, I do every day, even if it's 10 times that. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, for absolutely for sure, man. I think that's so I want to ask this question just so I can kind of, as we get into the conversation deeper, I can understand. For you and your business, right? For Steeze Marketing, who is your like target audience, or who's your target client?
so for me, I'm looking for a lot of these days is a lot of word of mouth and other clients put me on clients. But the client I'm looking for is the person who has their brand, has an idea, right? And is just looking for that person to help them put it together. And I don't have any specific industry that I work with. It's anybody who has an idea and a goal and they're looking for somebody to help them put it together. That's what I do. I help them. We go into a clarity meeting and I understand what the vision and the goal is, right? And then we sit down and make a plan, right? Make sure this plan is going to help this brand grow on every front. And then we execute that plan. So just to answer your question, I don't think I specifically have a industry or a certain type of client I'm looking for, but when it comes down to it, you have to have a goal and a vision and be ready to execute these steps that we need to take to get to that next level.
Got it. No, that's super dope. And I always ask that because I know some people are just like they're so. I've always been on the fence about, right, because you talk to some people, they're like, man, you gotta narrow that thing. Like you can only work with plumbers that are in an area that has 300,000 residents, and you're like, yo, how? I mean, it's just me, my personal thing, right? But so in that space, this is the kind of transition I was wondering is how that opened you up to even jumping into like Web3 stuff. Was that just personal interest, or were you starting to see where the worlds were colliding and you had to be ready to talk about that?
So this is a selfish thing I would say, but I Bitcoin came out when I was like a freshman in college, or maybe in a senior in high school. And at the time, bro, I could have invested 10, 15, whatever it was, bro. It was super low. I could invest, maybe it was like 115, but I could invest it super low and got into Bitcoin. And so now we see where Bitcoin is, and it's like, like I'm like, what, yo, like I could have just invested this way back then. I could have been sitting good now, right? So I just didn't want that feeling with Web3. I seen Web3. I seen, how things progress in the metaverse, how things progressing with NFTs, and I was just like, let me take a deep dive into this. And then when I deep dove into it, I found a platform called Spatial. And what Spatial is a metaverse platform. And what I started understanding is, okay, I don't really know. This was like literally a year ago now. I don't know anything about Web3, but what I do know is about branding. And I understand that it's not really about finding a need and filling it these days. It's more about creating a need and filling it. You know what I'm saying? That's how you make a brand go to the top. You create a need and then you fill that through your community. You know what I'm saying? So when it came down to Web3, it was just one of those things. Again, I didn't want to get left behind. But when I deep dove into the platform, and then, of course, we start building our metaverse, our Rivals world. We start understanding like it's about community and collaboration.
Dude, that's so. Yeah, I love that because that's like what you're talking is kind of the way I think too. Is like when I see something new, I'm the guy that I at least got to go touch it and see like
Yeah.
what it is. Maybe it doesn't come into the business, and it's just I at least need to know. But so as you got into that piece of it, because I think, man, there's so many places I can go with this, man. That's why I'm like, oh man, I'm about to nerd out real quick. So in the metaverse space, right? Part of the thing that interests me personally is that I already understand. I understand what it kind of already was before it became a word, right? Like video games and all that, right? And so I'm not sure if you're a gamer, but like all that content was already inside of games.
Mm-hmm.
And so is that the way you're kind of seeing the marketing side of that, where you're in this world and now we're really just bringing the same things we were doing out there into different metaverses or the worlds that you're creating?
So I mean, I'm not even gonna sit here in front like I play video games like that. So when I got to the metaverse, it was almost a whole new world to me. It's like, because for me, I haven't really been a gamer since Kingdom Hearts. You know what I'm saying? You remember the video game Kingdom
Oh
Hearts?
yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
it was almost taking me back to my childhood, but then it was also bringing me to where I am currently, because it was like business and putting these two things together, right? So when I first, I guess I'm not really answering your question, but when it came down to the metaverse, it was when I got back to it a year ago, it was almost a whole new world to me again, because again, I wasn't in the video game world at the time.
Yeah, no, that's a dope answer because that's really what I wanted to know is like what you saw it and were like, I just need to know. Like I can't be
Mhm.
left behind. And that's what I wanted to see what the difference was. For me, it's just like I came again from a different perspective of like I was a gamer and when I saw it, I was like, oh, we already do this. Like
We
it's
already did this
like this is
5 years
what,
ago.
Grand Theft Auto has been out for I don't even know now, like 10 years.
Yeah.
And literally it's essentially a metaverse that you just don't have 3D goggles for, right? Like it's so that's so interesting, man. Um how did you even get started in this space though? Like what interests you about even getting into like marketing and the media stuff?
So for me, I used to hoop overseas, man, and it goes back to, we was kind of talking about this on our last podcast episode. Um, and this podcast we have not put out just yet, but it's called Paralyzed or Prosperous, just putting that out there. But again, your excuses don't excuse you. And for me, I started playing basketball overseas, and I went to Coppin State University, which was a HBCU, when I transferred to an NAIA. So when it came down to playing overseas, it was a bit harder, because of course I didn't have that D1 tag behind me no more. I had an NAIA tag, right? So again, I made it to I made it overseas. I got my foot in the door, but then I started seeing, okay, well, this dude has, this dude averages the exact same as me. This dude averages the exact same rebounds as me, but they're getting better contracts in better countries, around the world, et cetera, et cetera. So I start really deep diving into the, like, why is that? Like, what's the difference between me and them if we're getting the same buckets? You know what I'm saying? So I start understanding, okay, they have a fan base. They have a community. They have a brand. They have logos. They have edited videos, right? So when I got back to America, actually at the time I came back straight from pro basketball. I was working at a desk at a hotel. You know what I'm saying? Like just trying to stack some bread till I went back overseas or whatever. And I start deep diving into making videos and the art of making logos and why marketing was even a thing and what was the most lucrative um, thing to get into marketing, right? And so, said I have to say, I got into marketing because I understood like my excuses do not excuse me. Even though I average the same as these dudes, there's an element. I almost got into marketing because of curiosity because it's like there's an element that I'm missing. How can I personally make sure that I never drop the ball again? I never miss this again. And then also, how can I help? At the time, it was like, how can I help other athletes get to this point?
Bro, that's so dope. And like so you open just kind of my thought process on because so there's some of the people that follow us are, you know, there's entrepreneur side, but then there's like the content creator side, right? And there's just this whole creator economy and how there are people out here just getting money creating content now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what they miss is that brand piece, right? It's not, you can't just create it and hope somebody will listen or hope somebody will watch or hope somebody will show up. And like what I heard you saying that was is even playing overseas or any sport, right? There's the stars and they're getting a check and all that. But if you're in the NBA, even if you're a bench warmer, if you have the right brand, you can still make money.
Oh, facts, pure facts, pure
And
facts.
that's what I heard. And that, like when you said it, I'm like, yo, that's for you. How simple is it? If you were trying to break it down to the simplest person, they don't even understand what a brand is because we say the word all the time. We all know because we're kind of in the industry. What would you explain to the simplest person what a brand actually means and why they need one?
Um, Man, that's a great question. That's a question I've never got before, specifically. But for me, I would say a brand is like an album. You know what I'm saying? Like for an album, you need a great AR. You know, you need great instrumentals. You need great. If you're depending on what type of writer you are, you need great writers. You know, you need a great environment, right? So it's like for a brand, you can have put it like this: you can have a good album and a bad album. And the bad album don't have all these things, you know, don't have great beats, don't even have an AR. You're doing this. This person may have made this off of their phones, right? So when it comes down to a brand, I always explain it as I feel as though a brand comes down to it. It's everything. Okay, so let me put it like this. Oh, this is going to have to be a part we edited. This is a great question. I apologize for this one. I apologize. There's just so many ways to explain it. So I'm gonna put it like this. For this explanation I'm gonna use is more a brand is like cooking a recipe. And when you cook a recipe, you can have all the right ingredients, but still cook the recipe wrong. So a brand is more than just a logo. A brand is more than just, you know, fonts. A brand is more than just great videos. A brand is how you make everything that you do makes your audience feel. You know what I'm saying? When you put all these components together, you're cooking this amazing cake called a brand. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I would explain the point of brand.
Yo, that's I feel like that's a great way to explain it because I think and so what I was thinking, and look, I don't even know why my brain went this way, but it's something triggered me when you said you played overseas, right? And so I'm thinking about like one of the big things I'd been watching was like NIL, the was a name, image, and likeness in
Mm-hmm.
NCAA, right? Sports, and the fact that now in college you can make money on your own. But again, you're working with grown people, grown people have been on this earth a long time that don't understand brands and don't understand marketing. And now it's like, okay, we've opened this door so people under, you know, I mean, what you're going to college at 18, right? Like, so you're 18 to 22, and you're like, oh, I can make money now. Well, how do I do that? What's a brand? What like what does that even mean? And that's what kind of triggered me about what you said. And so when you approach, all right, so now let's go back to the process that you talked about. You're asking them the four clarity questions. So you're walking through the process of who they are, the messages that they're trying to get out, who they're trying to get it to. How do you approach it from? Because I know we're talking about content and that piece. Do you specify where they should show up on content on social and different places? Is it different for different companies or different brands, or do you have y'all just need to be everywhere? Like, what's your thought process on that?
So I think that it does depend on the size of your team. You know, because there's people that will come to me with just themselves. So of course we have to filter that out. There's some people that will come to me maybe with even a whole like specifically like Only Gems, which is an NFT company. They came to me and I'm just part of their marketing area. They have a whole team, right? So depending on how big your team is, that's one component to know how many platforms you should be on and be working on. And another thing is what industry you're in. You know what I'm saying? So again, going back to the Only Gems example, they are industry, they're NFT. So Discord and Twitter and Instagram are more prevalent than even LinkedIn, Facebook, and things of that nature for them, even TikTok, right? So you have to understand your industry, you have to understand your product. And then, I mean, boom, that's how we kind of go. When we go through the 4 clarity questions, that's what we help you understand. And then you'll understand then we help you understand what platforms go with these things.
That's so good. I'm glad you said that because, like, you get so many people that just preach from a 30,000 foot level of like show up everywhere, right? Because I ain't gonna lie, I'm one of those that I'll just be like show up everywhere,
Yeah.
but I'm always still like hone in on that platform, like you said, NFT space. That's gonna be Twitter. That's gonna be having a Discord server. That's gonna be that kind of piece. And because I even heard you say it earlier, where you were like, Facebook is not your favorite, like it's not the place that you wanted to be, right? But people watch your stuff, people watch their stuff on there, so you're like, well, I got to be there.
People watch the stuff, and yeah, it is what it is. But you have to go off of the analytics. It just goes back to that, And like you just said, like I know I don't know how to say his last name, but the Nikki and Moose podcast. Mustafa. Mustafa said, if you don't know what to do, stay consistent. And so if you don't know what to do, if you don't have a team, if you don't hire somebody like me, right, just stay consistent. If you need to post on every platform just to keep your mind going, do that. Just stay consistent. You know what I'm saying? But when you understand, when you do understand your clarity, when you understand your value proposition, you don't even have to go through all that because you understand this works smarter, not harder.
That's so good because what you said, you were like being consistent, and then what that made me lead to is, again, the thing you started with in the beginning was your analytics. That's how you find out, right? But you only find out if you was consistent to get the data. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's so good, man. Let me ask you this. So, in this space, and man, there's so many good questions. Hold on. On the Web3 side, when you got started with the kind of the few brands that you got, what is your expertise that you bring to the table in those spaces? Like, I know you have the general marketing, but what's like this is the thing that can't nobody do that we do?
I think it's 2 things: creative direction, and then another thing is being able to like hear somebody say something, and then automatically put a visual to it, whether it's a photo or video, whatever. And that's something that I didn't even know was a superpower. I really thought everybody could do that in our industry. Can literally hear something and put it in visual or physical form, whatever. But that's one of my biggest strengths. That's one of our biggest strengths at Steeze Marketing is being able to hear, literally just hear what you're talking about and visualize and create something exactly how you're almost exactly how you were thinking, right? And another thing is just creative direction. I think that even the way that we map stuff out for videos and mini docs or whatever, even social media ads, like the creative direction of that, it's, I don't want to say, it's unmatched, but from an humble standpoint, it's like to a point that we've created a system of, okay, I'm able to create this script. And even if I feel as though the videographer that I usually work with isn't able to do that, I'm able to hire anybody who I feel like has that quality and will be able to direct this video with that person. And that's the art because everybody feels as though, okay, I only can do this with the person on my team. Well, if you're able to map it out and have that map, you can work with anybody within your network for that project.
Oh, yeah, that's so good because, like, man, you say that, and I just think about that to me is sometimes the hard part. Like the people I run into on my side when we just want to do the editing side. Like right now, I don't have a team that goes out and does anything for you. You send us the content and we'll do the back end stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's always the next question is like, well, what do I even record? Or what do I
Right.
even say? What do I even do? And I'm like, oh
Right.
gosh.
Right. And it's like you just make your clients feel so much more comfortable when you're coming to them with that stuff. It's like, you know, coming to them with exactly what you want them to say. It's like you can tell somebody you're gonna make them a social media mogul, but okay, what type of content you're gonna make to help them do that? You know what I'm saying? So you're even doing those things even make your clients more comfortable, from any standpoint.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And let me ask you this from a personal, you and your business, right? Do you do you currently consider yourself to have a personal brand outside of Steeze Marketing, or it's kind of everything you do is it goes back into in Steeze Marketing? Like if you see me, it's Steeze Marketing that you see, or do you have kind of a separate brand from you from the company?
So it's everything is Steve's marketing.
Okay.
I guess I would consider us a personal brand. Um, I would consider us a personal brand. Especially even with the my dog's name is Steeze. My people call me Steeze. People call my mama Steeze. So it's to a point that it's almost a family thing at this point. But I will say that when it does come down to it, I want to build a culture. Even we rebranded our logo, and it's more about a creative culture. So yes, it's a personal brand, but in the long run, the whole goal is to build a creative culture out of all this.
Yeah, that's super dope. And then let me ask you this because I saw some website and I just wanted to understand the term of it, right? Because it said Steez the Creative Network. Is that what is that specifically?
So like I said, that was I did rebrand my logo. It was the Creative Network. Now it's the Creative Culture. But the creative. So even like 3 years ago, I even when I first started my business, I even hired an app dude to map me out an app, and it was called the Creative Network. The app was just literally Instagram with a whole bunch of creatives having their services. Basically, it was Fiverr. Basically, it was Fiverr. That's why I didn't go through with it. But at the time, I didn't know about Fiverr and Upwork and stuff like that. But it was specifically like Instagram. You go through, you tap what type of services you want, but it's more like After Effects people, people like logo creators, people who you can't usually find through a Fiverr or
Yeah.
something like that. So the creative network was kind of stemmed off of that when I first made my logo, because it was like I feel as though I want to make a network for people where it's like I never have to go on Google and guess which videographer I want to use. I can just go to this app, see all their work from boom each industry, and then I can make my decision from there. Talk to them, boom, go into. But again, it's pretty much just a Fiverr for creative. So um, I want to change it to the creative culture because that's what I'm really trying to create.
Got it. Got it. No, that's super. I mean, that's super dope because I think that's one of the what I found out was like we were saying before, like that sometimes you overthink the thing that you do so easily, you don't realize that everybody doesn't just do it because you were talking about that
Mhm.
creative piece that you do, right? And like I grew up doing business and the creative was always second for me. Like I
Yeah.
had to like even DJ, I had to get somebody else to teach me to DJ, but I can go book parties all day. And so it was like, how do we connect these things? And so that's super dope. Um, in that creative space, like as you were creating that, how did you how did you start off by meeting some of the people that you work with now? Was that all internet? Were that people that you went to school with? Like how did you start building the team?
Um. So to be honest, not it's really mostly through the internet.
Mm,
There's people on my team directly when it comes down to closer things, editing and adding my regular shooters and stuff. There's the people I grew up with.
yeah.
There's even people in my family on the team. But
Nice.
like for instance, it's crazy because we call him the Steve's Marketing Phantom because he really doesn't want his name out there. He just wants to build something that nobody else built before, right? So
Nice.
Steve's Marketing Phantom, he lives in Italy. You know what I'm saying? I
Nice.
started working
Nice.
with him about a year or so ago because he's seen that basically he came to us, one of the pro athletes we work with, bro, with a whole plan of how he wants to work,
Nice.
his plans for the future, even had designs. And I was like, bro, nobody does this. You know what I'm saying? Like
Not
this
at all.
man is not only on top of that, his work is impeccable. So, all that to say, yeah, a lot of people we have kind of a mix between both people I grew up with,
Yeah.
even down to my CPA, I grew up with her,
Oh
and
wow.
then
That's dope.
um, we have the creators that I've met through the internet and other people like that.
Yeah, that's super dope. And that's man, that's what I had to ask that because I knew that you like I knew without knowing like that there was a bunch of people that you work with that you just met on the internet. I mean, how we met on the internet, right? And like I feel like it's weird because like I feel like even people younger than us don't even get that like the internet really makes the world smaller. It doesn't make it
Tough.
bigger. It makes it like you just said you working with somebody in Italy. Like how you do
Italy,
that?
Italy.
like we ain't even in the same time zone. Like we'll, Um, so a question more about the entrepreneur side. Like what? So you came out of school, you went to play ball, and you said you were working. You were working when you came back. Did you only kind of do one job when you came back and then decide to do entrepreneurship, or like what was your transition from like basketball job to like I'm gonna go do the business thing? Like this is what I want.
So like when it comes down to overseas, especially when you get your foot in the door, it's very imperative to not like take a certain amount of breaks off. Like even a month or two in your resume is not good, especially when you're trying to move your way up, right? So at the time when I was building, I came back. I was working at a hotel, and that's when I really started diving into the marketing stuff. Well, boom, a month went by. Okay, well I'm like, okay, well I'm still working out. I'm still doing, trying to build this stuff. Boom, 2 months went by. Same thing, working out. But at the time, again, that's too long. That's too long. So I was, even though I was trying to get teams, I was like, I have to live this life. So I have to live life. I have to do what I have to do. So I ended up getting a job in Lawrence, Kansas, where KU is, at a call center. So I was doing some HR stuff there. And of course, again, it's not my calling. So again, I'm just kind of building on the back end, trying to figure out what I want to do. And then I started doing kind of some leasing and marketing for a housing company called Triniton Ventures. And at the time, it was a lease up. So when it comes down to a lease up, man, you're literally trying to get people from 0 applicants and zero leases up to 100%. And for the first year goal is 50%. So you got to understand, like in that first year, I learned so much about marketing. I learned so much about foot marketing, digital marketing, things of that nature that I was able to literally apply for a leasing and marketing manager job at Aspen Heights. So boom, I went from Lawrence, Kansas, to Springfield, Missouri, and I started doing leasing and marketing. So again, the whole goal for a housing marketing, student housing, is to go from whatever percentage to 100%. That's the goal every year, no matter what. And I end up coming in at 56%, end up helping them get to about 97%. So boom, I think I ended up getting moved to a sales and marketing manager. So things really went quick at this time. Things were going quick. But for me, it was like I didn't have any specific loyalty. My loyalty was to the marketing. It was like, how much can I learn of this? Who can I get close to? How much of this can I use to build what I'm trying to build moving forward? Right. So, I have to say, my boss left. And so she was like, hey, 3 months. She was like, listen, stay tuned. 3 months, I want to bring you with me. Boom. 3 months down the line, she called me like, yo, we can offer you blah, blah, blah. You trying to take the job. So I'm like, yeah, definitely. I'm out. Shoot, I'm out. I'm about to come learn. So got to this company, man. But I started understanding, okay, I went from a national company to more of a mom and pop, more of a in the area type housing company. So I was like, how can I learn from the CEO? How can I get this game from the CEO? So I started requesting meetings with him, finally got on this calendar, and I told him what I'm trying to do. I just laid it out on the table, bro, laid it all out on the table. And literally, he was like, you know what? I want to show love. I want to invest in your business, right? So that, bro, right then and there, he pulled out his little checkbook, wrote me a little check for whatever, bro. And it was like, from then on, I was like, I know what I need to do. I know what I need to do, right? So this is about 7 months later. Boom, I finally LLC Steeze Marketing, and just kind of the rest is kind of history.
Bro, that's super dope. But like I think in that story, like a lot of people that don't have never been entrepreneurs or don't understand, they just see the highlights, right? They're just like, oh, you work for yourself, you make your own choices. Like, but the fact that you had to grind for it, like you were like, I'm gonna stay here and learn this thing, learn this craft first before I jump out there. Man, and like in that one, the one piece I want to talk about is the person that you talked to that was a CEO
Mhm.
that they recognized talent in you. Like, how did you, man, how did you navigate that piece of when you were like, I need to know what they know? Like, why is that piece important that you have to listen to the person ahead of you or get in a space with somebody ahead of you?
I think it was really important because at the time, man, I was really heavy on a lot of ET. And I still am. I still rock with ET. But at the time, I feel like a lot of subjects on the podcast were just about going to get it and paying for the information, or going to get the information from people who apparently or have been doing it better than you for a lot of years, right? So it was like when I seen him and I seen everything that he was building, it was like, I know he didn't do this. He wasn't a trust fund baby. That's what really intrigued me about it. He wasn't a person who just came from money. Matter of fact, in that city, his brother had a company as well, and they fought. They didn't even like each other. They didn't even talk. You know what I'm saying? So it's really crazy. Like I think that when it came down to it, I just seen what he built from the ground up, and I was like, well, I'm trying to build from the ground up. I don't have the handout like everybody else, and I'm not going to sit here and complain and play the victim. So how can I get the information on from the ground up? You know what I'm saying? So that's where that thought process of starting to quest those meetings came from. And people will look at me like I was crazy, like, well, why are you trying to get meetings with the CEO? You know what I'm saying? Oh, he's a busy man. Like people who shouldn't even have known that I was on his calendar are like, why are you having meetings with him? But I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm trying to talk to this man. I'm trying to pick his brain. I'm trying to figure out how to get to this next level.
Yeah, that's so dope because I feel like so many people are scared to ask. That's number one. The other piece is they don't even think to ask. Because the worst he could say is no, right? Like he could have just been like, "Nah, I ain't got time for you." Like I don't know who you. Like,
That's
but the
facts.
fact that you jumped out there and he like, man, that just speaks volumes to like what where you are now and the foresight that you have. That like, look, there's a thing that I need. I'm gonna go figure it out. Versus, like you said, you won't play the victim, and so that's super dope, man.
I think it goes back to on that part. It does go back to not burning bridges too, because I did have because again, the worst they can say is no, but another thing, the worst they can do is fire me. You know what I'm saying? And I never burnt the bridge because I just put my 2 weeks in with the other company, right? So it also goes back to that point of never burning bridges, trying to just keep things afloat. You know what I'm saying?
That's so good. That's so good. And so far in your entrepreneur journey, what's the most valuable thing that you personally get out of being an entrepreneur and having your own business?
The most valuable thing is time, just in general, just the fact that I own my own time. You know what I'm saying? And even with like my girlfriend or just with family, I had to understand what that really meant. What that really meant is I had to find the business and family balance. You know what I'm saying? I can't just be immersed in business all the time because what did Carl Phillips say? He said you got to be where your feet are. You know what I'm saying? And that's something I struggled with the first 2.5 years. But yeah, I think the most important thing is just being able to own my own time.
Bro, that's so good. And let me ask you this, and this is for all those that aren't entrepreneurs yet, have no clue. They're like, "Oh man, I get the freedom of time." In your experience, just because you have the freedom of the time, does that mean you work less?
Oh no, no sir, no sir. You can ask anybody in my network. There's times where I've worked a full 24 hours before. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
that's people always think that it's like I remember hearing when I was a kid. I remember like working at in the summertime, working at the community center, and be like, man, I can't wait. I cannot wait to start my own business, man, so I can be chilling. And I just look back on that like, bro, that's crazy that we really thought about that when we was kids. But it's like, yo, when you start your own business, that's when the grind really starts. Yes, you own your own time. Yes, you can do whatever you want, dang near, but you still have to take care of business, if not even more take care of business, because there's no skeleton or template now for you.
yeah, and so another thing I want to ask you is about and you personally, right? As you're building your business, how do you view other companies in your space? And what I'm trying to say is like, do you personally in a self-awareness space know where you personally want to be, like company size wise and that kind of thing? Or do you kind of let the industry tell you, well, like, well, they're bigger, so I got to be bigger than them? Or like, what's your thought process when you look at that?
So for one, when I look at other companies, I look at their greatness. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard for me to be like, I hate when people be like, don't look at other brands aren't better than yours. There are other brands better than yours. And you need to take that template. I'm not saying take their template and use it completely, but take what's working for them and add it to what's working for you. You know what I'm saying? So number one, that's what I do. I go through the company, and even to the point of the ads library, I go through people's ads like, okay, this marketing company does this, this, and this. This is what I need to be planning on when I get to this amount of revenue. You know what I'm saying? When I get to this amount of ad revenue. Just on a small note for a hack, what I do for ad revenue is we get paid through Steeze Marketing. So whatever we make on there, I'll use 50% of that and just run ads continuously through Steeze Marketing. But just to go back to your question, man, I think that one of the biggest things that we do is we kind of do study the industry. But I think the industry now for branding and marketing, yes, you can have 100 people in the company and you will kill the game 100%, even with 20. But I think it's more about duplication. If I can duplicate myself 15 to 20 times in a team, I don't need a team of 100. Because if I can duplicate myself, that means they can duplicate themselves, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? So I personally can't even tell you right now because I'm only a team of like 6. But I can't even tell you right now of how big we want to be in the future. But I do know for a fact that no matter how big it is, I just want everybody to get to a point where if they wanted to venture off and start their own business, they can do that.
That's so dope. And let me ask you this. And so I don't know how long. I don't know if you like you started with a team or how quick you brought people in. How hard was that transition from just being you to like I need other people to be in this? Was that an easy thing for you personally, or?
It was hard because that was finally where I took one investor, and that was a hard point for me because there was other people who talked about investing, blah blah blah, but I needed a certain amount of creative freedom. I needed a certain amount of certain things in the contract that other people weren't giving me, right? So when I started understanding that I needed to expand, that's when I had to start really diving in investor packages and creating investor things like that. Um, and so it was a huge transition. It was huge. It took time. It was a bit mentally taxing, but I learned it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't take the route of just copping out. I learned it, and I got the investor ultimately.
Oh, that's super cool, man. That's so. Man, I've had, look. I feel like I've jumped all over the place on there. A bunch of stuff you do. Man, what's a question that you wish I asked that I didn't ask? Something that you're like, I like to talk about this.
Um, man, I don't know. I mean, you fire at this. I'm gonna tell you this. I'm learning from you as we speak. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm trying to be like you out here on this podcasting. But I don't know, man. I can't even. Uh, Shoot. The one thing I really do like to talk about is not looking around the weight room, understanding who your brand is, and going to the weight room analogy, you could be going in there, lifting a certain amount because you see this guy over here lifting a certain amount, but your goal is to cut weight, and his goal is to be bulky. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes down to it, stop looking around the weight room because your goal is your goal. You know what I'm saying? And I'll be posting the workout videos. I say the same thing in real life. You know what I'm saying? Because people be going to the gym. I see a lot of people going to the gym, like, yo, I'm gonna go with my friends. I'm gonna do all this stuff, but y'all have different goals. So when it comes down even to mind, body, soul, your body, even when you go to the gym, just understand what your goal is and understand, how you want to move forward.
Yo, yeah, that's so fire. Yeah, and like you said it so eloquently. Like that's because that's what I was trying to even ask on the marketing when I was asking you the business thing. Like that's that, right? Pay attention to what you got going on and be self aware. Let me ask you because I did hear you say about the podcast. So you guys are working on the podcast. You just haven't dropped it yet, or what's the?
So long story, we have been working on the podcast. We just had something called a JSA retreat. So what we're going to start doing every year at the top of the year is meeting in the state and just mapping out what we want to do the whole year, um, regardless of what it is. Even if it's small, we just want to map it out and actually put it to dates. So we did that early January, and then we was like, "Yo, listen, we have to start executing." Right. So we start making our pod. So we don't have the exact day where we're going to start putting it out just yet, but we already have a couple episodes in the vault. And again, it's with Jorge Sierra and Associates. It's called the Paralyzed the Prosperous podcast. And man, it's business, personal development, and leadership, man, and authentic conversation. Very similar to this one. Ain't no fluff to it. We're gonna just talk about the real.
Let me ask you this, right? And I feel like this is a good place to like drop a bomb on them, right? It's like there's already tons of podcasts, like you just said. It's similar to what we do. It's gonna be different because it's you, right? It's you and it's other people, so it's gonna be different. Why? Why do you still feel like, yo, I should drop a podcast regardless of all these other podcasts that are out there? Just like all the YouTubers, right? There's all these YouTubers. Why should I put more YouTube content out? Why is that still important?
I'm honestly gonna come at it from a spiritual standpoint. I feel as though this is our calling. You know what I'm saying? I feel as though this is what I was put on earth to do. right? So regardless of all the podcasts that are out, regardless of all the like even on the YouTube side, building a YouTube channel, regardless of what's out, I feel as though my authentic self or our authentic selves and what we have to talk about. You know what I'm saying? We were meant to talk about this. People still need to hear these things. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of just goes back to the weight room thing. We understand what our value is, and we understand how we need to articulate it. So we're going to use the podcast to do as such. You know, do those things.
Yeah, that's man. There's no better way than that. That was definitely a bomb drop moment. Like, let's tell the people, man, where can they find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they connect with you? Whether they want to work with you or whatever you got going on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So at Steeze Me Please on all platforms. Darrlyn Johnson the second on Darrlyn Steeze Johnson the second on Facebook. And then SteezMarketing.com. Yeah, tap in, man. We have the four clarity question things. We do have a freebie. So if you go to the www.steezmarketing.com, go to our shop, you can go ahead and get that for free. Yeah, man, it can really just help you with anything you're trying to build, whether it's a brand or even if you're just trying to get life clarity. I think those four questions, help out very well, my man.
Yo, that's super dope. I appreciate you, one, being on here, being transparent, being able to give that back. My biggest thing is I believe in being able to pay it forward.
Mhm.
And honestly, I'm gonna say young because I'm a little older than you, but I know there's younger people out there than us trying to kill the game. So I appreciate what you brought to the table, man. I appreciate your time. You guys make sure you heard everywhere to follow them. Make sure you go check out those four clarity questions are key to your business. Whether you started it, whether you've been in business for 20 years and you ain't never answered those questions, you need to look at that. Thanks again, man. I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you letting me on, man. Absolute pleasure.